All right, you back with another edition of EDI Mean's Talking My Truth, man, and this is part 2 of the Me Against the World 31 year anniversary. Either way it goes, like I've been telling y'all, it's my favorite Tupac album, an album that I'm very proud to be a part of. One of the only features on this album is from us, man. Dramacidal, the Outlaws. Well, we weren't the Outlaws yet. And actually, I want to get into that because I'm going to break down the making of the song Outlaw, which eventually gave birth to the Outlaws.
OFL, I'm yelling no more talk unless it's the truth. You in that bullshit walking. When I'm in
Man, I'm going to ask the experts out there, man, all the Tupac experts to hit up the comments of this particular video and let me know what song we did first. Did we do Me Against the World first, or did we do Outlaw? It's 30 years, man. It's over 30 years, man. I don't be remembering everything, y'all. I can't even lie, man. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I remember dates and times. It was all a blur, man. We was in the moment. We was moving. We was doing music. And we actually wrote this song before we got to the studio. One of the few times we wrote a song before we got to the studio. So let me paint the scenario for you. We're in New York City. Tupac is recording this album, Me Against the World. At the time, he was dating a young lady that lived in Harlem. This young lady would eventually become his wife. Her name was Keisha Morris. And sometimes we'd be running around, we'd be running New York, ripping and running, doing what we do. And, you know, Pac would go stay uptown in Harlem with his lady. And we'd stay at the hotel. This particular time, for some reason, we didn't have hotels. We didn't have a hotel room. And we ended up sleeping on Keisha's floor a lot in Harlem during this time. We would go to the studio, we come back uptown, stay at her place, right in Harlem, 126th Street, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the exact location, but I know we was uptown in Harlem, catching taxis, going back and forth to the studio. And Pac had this beat that he was playing, produced by Mosey. Now, Mosey ended up producing some of my favorite cuts on Me Against the World. Songs like Young Niggas, which he co-produced with another producer. Don't hate me for this, brother, but I can't remember his name right now. But Mosey had a whole team. He had another producer that he worked with. He had his sister who ended up singing on Young Niggas. But back to Outlaw. He had this beat that Mosey gave him. Mosey actually came to New York to be at the session when we recorded Outlaw. And so we're at the house and we writing to it. Mo Preem was actually there as well. There's a picture going around right now, and I believe this picture is us in Keisha's apartment in Harlem. And this could be the day we wrote Outlaw. Could have been one of those days where we were staying there during the recording process. Anyway, Pac likes the beat. Pac like, yo, I'm gonna put y'all on it. All of us. Me, Cash, Gaddafi, Mo Preem. And we all start writing to it. But Pac wants us to do our verse a little different this time. And I think I broke this down on another song that we kind of did this style on, a song called Teardrops and Closed Caskets, which came out on the Still I Rise album. Pac wanted us to be more like a group instead of these separate entities put into a group. And so he would like us to do our verses, and we would call it the Run DMC style, where I say a line, Castro say a line, I say a line, Gaddafi say a line, I say a line, Napoleon say a line. Going back and forth like Run DMC used to do and made famous. And so he wants us to write our verse like that. I was never particularly a fan of writing like that because I like to get my bars out and just get them out. I kind of thought more like a solo artist when it came to writing my bars, even though I was okay with being in a group. I loved being in a group. So we start writing our verses. Now we got to kick our verse for Pac. Everybody kicks their verse for Pac, and Pac is loving our shit. He loving our shit like, yo, y'all good. Like I said, Mo Preem was supposed to be on this song. When it came time for Mo Preem to get on the song and eventually be on the song, Pac was like, nah, I just want the little homies on this right here. And so that's why you don't hear Mo Preem's verse. Mo Preem does start Me Against the World off with a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a soldier dies but once. That's Mo Preem's voice doing that. And so, you know, because Mo Preem didn't end up making the Outlaw album and he was disappointed, the Outlaw song, and make Me Against the World the album, obviously he was disappointed. Pop was like, well, yo, I'm gonna let you set the album off. I need you to say this. And that's why you hear Mo start Me Against the World off with that famous quote, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a soldier dies but once. So we get to the studio, but hold on, I'm going too fast. Before we get to the studio, I think this particular day, Pac had a limo come pick us up from his lady's house. And anytime we would go to the studio, there would be this one kid on the block, and this kid was named Ra-Ra. And so you hear Ra-Ra's voice at the beginning of Outlaw. Pac like, yo, what the fuck you want to be when you grow up? Like, I want to be a motherfucking outlaw.
Nigga, is you stupid? I want to be a motherfucking outlaw.
That's right, nigga.
Crazy, right? I think Ra-Ra was only like 8, 9 years old, if I'm not mistaken, when he said that. But he was just a kid with a lot of personality. Pac would see him, give him a few dollars, always check on him, make sure he was doing the right thing, staying out the way. But he was in them streets, you know what I'm saying, in Harlem. You know what I mean? You would see Ra-Ra everywhere. And every time he'd see Pac, he'd be like, yo, Pac, when you gonna take me to the studio? On this particular day, Pac was like, come on, hop in, going to the studio with us. Tell your peoples you going to the studio with Tupac. And Pac kept his word. This is what kind of individual Tupac Shakur was, even at very young age. Loved the young dudes, loved the young cats, the young niggas. And so we get to the studio and, you know, Mo Z is in the studio and he's playing the track and he's adding different elements to it. Hold on, I'm going too fast though. Because there's another voice that you hear on the hook to Outlaw. The game ain't the same. I bet y'all want to know who that is. Shh. I'm going to tell y'all a secret. That was the Weed Man. Yeah, that was the homeboy Jamaican Russ, man. Jamaican Russ worked at a gate. Now, a gate is another word for what we know now as a dispensary. But in New York, you had these gates throughout the city where you can go in and you can purchase marijuana. Of course, it was illegal, so if you knew, you knew. It wasn't advertised. They didn't put no signs out in front of the shit like, come here, buy weed. It was one of those things where if you knew, you knew. There was a gate right around the corner from where we were staying at. That's where we used to go get the beef and the broccoli. The beef and the broccoli is like chocolate Thai weed with green Cali weed, and we would mix it together. Boy, let me tell you right now, you're going to write some shit, you smoke that. You're going to write some incredible shit. A lot of Me Against the World was recorded off the beef and the broccoli. At least the tracks that were recorded in New York, man. So we get to the studio. I forget the name of the studio. Like I said, this was 30 years ago. I believe it's the same studio where the situation happened where Tupac was shot. And almost killed and robbed and, you know, famously threw up the middle finger. This is the same studio. Pac was working there a lot and recorded a lot of music there when he was on the East Coast. So like I said, we get to the studio, Mosey is there, the track is playing, the track is stumping. This is incredible. And, you know, we go in there and knock it out, man. Ra-Ra does his part, Pac does his part, Jamaican Russ is on the hook, saying the game ain't the same. Outlaw, outlaw, outlaw. But even when we recorded this song, little did we know that eventually we would become the Outlaws. That song was the last song on Me Against the World, but it was a lot of people's favorite. So it was in a lot of people's top 5 favorite songs. And so eventually, like I said, that led to us becoming the Outlaws. That was essentially the birth of the Outlaws, was on that song Outlaw at the end of Me Against the World. Man, any names I forgot, please don't blame my heart, blame my head and that beef and broccoli. It's your guy, EDI, man, I'm gone.
Young and thug and prepare for busting if that's my destiny. Ready for wherever, see you niggas can't get the best of me. Hold me down.